Hello and welcome to this very exciting panel discussion, which has been organized by the Economic Times. My name is Mukbil Ahmed. I'm the executive editor at ETCIO and the host for this panel discussion. First of all, I wish and hope that all of you are safe and secure. Now, coming to the topic for today's discussion. Primarily, we are going to talk about how conversational messaging can add new dimensions to marketing, commerce, as well as support. In any form of business, who are the two main stakeholders? The provider and the customer. Business transactions involve frequent communication between these two, and if there are any other stakeholders. Now, conventional communication requires traditional channels, for example, phone, mail, email. However, in today's digital age, these have been overridden through technologies such as conversational communications and messaging. In fact, such platforms have made brand communication cycles quicker and more accessible. Instant messaging is forcing brands to meet the conversational needs of their customers. This means providing quick and seamless customer service by responding in real time and primarily being where your customers are. During today's program, we will try and explore several trends in customer communication and how traditional channels are pitched against the latest and the most cutting-edge ones. How do you make sure that two-way messaging is driving efficiency? And how does it add a personal touch to customer service? And most importantly, why should your business embrace conversational messaging in the first place? So we will also discuss key ingredients, and industry experts here will discuss how brands today are able to nurture stronger connections, operations, and are able to create a new touch point for marketing and commerce with conversational messaging. Now, I really feel that there couldn't have been a better time to discuss all this among all the chaos that is all around us and which has brought the world to a halt for a good 2 years. Therefore, for today's discussions, we have a lineup of extremely knowledgeable, insightful, and brilliant speakers. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our guest speakers. It is my pleasure to introduce Nishrit Srivastava, CPTO, Arrive, Gaurav Bagga, Head of Product and Engineering, Pristine Care, Apurv Narang, Head User Growth and Product Marketing, Jupiter, Money, Mayank Jha, CTO, Melora, Tushar Agarwal, Head of Engineering, Tata 1MG, Raj Rambia, AVP, Customer Success, Mo Engage Incorporation, and last but not the least, Mr. Abhishek Saxena, VP Engineering at Gupshup. So, my technology friends, without much ado, I would like to dive straight into the conversation at hand, and let me open it up with some opening remarks. Mr. Raj, you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, Raj. So we can start with some opening remarks from you about the subject at hand.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the call. So I think, the topic is very relevant, as you mentioned, especially in today's age. And one thing that I think apart from everything else, one thing I know about today's generation is that they hate calls, right? They don't want to speak to somebody. They don't want to meet somebody. They want to get their work done, or they want to converse with brands on text, right? Text, images, send, receive, and get done with it asynchronous, right? They don't want to waste their time when you have time. They want to spend that time when they have time, and they want to send or do whatever when they really want to, rather than waiting on calls or other things, right? I think that's the biggest driver for conversational messaging, in my view, that brands have to enable today's generation to immediately reach out to them whenever they want, without having to wait, without having to really go through multiple hoops to reach to somebody to talk to. I think that's the convenience part is the biggest reason why brands are forced to adopt conversational commerce in a big way. conversational messaging in a big way. And I think there's a lot more to evolve on the other side of it. Like once customers start the interaction, how it is going to be responded to, what kind of use cases and what kind of conversations can take place, automated as well as human assisted. I think there's a lot more that's going to happen in this space over the next 1 or 2 years, in my view. That's my initial remark. Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree with you that this really looks like one of the most promising and potential areas of technological development today. And this is something that we see in action every day, every moment of our lives. Keeping in view the involvement that conversations have come to acquire in our lives. Now, I really would want to now go to Nishrit. Nishrit, what do you think are the major challenges that face such communication today, particularly among enterprises?
Yeah, so I think, for a long time, email was king in terms of communicating with customers. And the benefit that enterprises had there was, you could have a small team talk to a large number of customers because it wasn't synchronous, right? Message came in, people would get to it whenever they wanted to. With customers wanting to have real-time communication with brands and with enterprises, either a company has to increase the number of people that's actually sitting there talking to each of their customers one-on-one, which is obviously a big burden on them, or which is why we're seeing a lot of chatbots and AI being used here. They have to figure out and find the right automated conversational methods to reach out to their customers and respond to them, right? Where it's because the biggest problem with AI is, are you giving the right information to the customer? And as customers are looking for more personalization, more customization in terms of the communication they're having with brands, how do brands continue to build that at scale without the basic answer of just let me increase my team to like 100 people? I think that's really where the large challenges are happening and where a lot of people are innovating to improve that piece.
Right, excellent. So Nishrit, sticking on to you for the time being, how can modern communication technologies help explore, really upcoming and new dimensions of marketing, commerce, as well as support?
So I think the benefit that we have with most of the current messaging platforms is we have the benefit of data, right? We're tracking our customer across every single facet or touch point that they have with us. So that's really allowing us to give them, from a support perspective, have the information, provide the solutions to them without having to go to an actual person. From a commerce perspective, we're able to show them the right information, right offers, right products they want to buy at the right time, right? Because we have that data available with us. And I think even customers, even if you look at how we interact daily, right? As what was already said by Raj, people hate getting on the phone, right? People hate talking, they're not like messaging each other. Even friends normally use WhatsApp. That's one of the biggest piece. So it's not surprising that even when we talk about retail or commerce, people want to start using that as a way of purchasing as well, right? The benefit that we have in your technology is with the data, we can actually use that to give them the right information and give them a more customized experience.
Correct. So it's very interesting, the very pertinent points that you have made, Nishrit. Now bringing Gaurav into the discussions. Gaurav, what do you, according to your mind, what are the major challenges that enterprises face vis-a-vis, communication technologies?
I think like Nishrit and Raj have already mentioned, I think everybody wants to not use calling. Traditionally, it has always been call centers and cold calling. But I think with the modern communication technologies like chatbots or location-based messaging and related services have basically helped us in better connection with the customers, right? So like Nishit said, we have a lot of data, right? I think one of the things that the challenges that we've had is how soon can you connect with the customer? Not just a customer reaching out to us, there are various channels. Another challenge is how soon do you connect with the customers? The first response time that you have to connect with them through various channels and through various do all the different channels have different people who are going to respond to it, or is it going to be one person responding across various channels? I think those are the things that are critical in today's messaging world.
Right, and how do we make the best use of two-way messaging, and trying to drive efficiency as well as, adding a personal touch to customer service?
Sure. So I think we've been using a lot of two-way messaging for improving our patient experience. So since we are in surgical healthcare, right? So for us, giving patients information regarding, let's say, the treatment they're going to have, the time of their appointments, what kind of documents they need to bring in, what kind of approvals or terms and conditions they have to also sign in. So we use a lot of communication through WhatsApp bots. So for us, like I already mentioned, patient experience is of paramount importance, and to also keep, we also collect digital feedback through it. So by using these, I would say the channels, the messaging channels like WhatsApp, we're able to get unbiased feedback from the patients regarding their experience. That helps us to look at our patient NPS in an unbiased manner. And using tools like voice IVRs or even auto dialers to reduce the, like I was already mentioning earlier, the first response time. By using auto dialers to reduce the first response time, and I think it helps us build confidence with our prospective patients, and we are able to help them or provide them with the medical assistance as soon as possible. And I think that is critical for any brand to also do that, is to connect with their customers as soon as possible as well, right? And if you're not going to solve my problem right now, I may actually forget that you may have, like you may even call me, I will not even remember that I've spoken to you about something that you have already thought, right? So I think two-way messaging, keeping those nudges coming in, I think making that brand recall, I think it's extremely important.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with you that in this in today's competitive day and age, I mean, two-way messaging has to be, and it has to be real time.
Right.
As you rightly pointed out, just now, that it's no use if somebody gets back to me, say after an hour, after a lot of pain has already been caused.
Right.
So that's a very important point that you have raised, Mr. Bagga. Apurva, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so before coming, in fact, I'll just also describe the evolution of how did we realize at Jupiter that we need to go to conversational messaging, and in fact, an interesting story around it. So honestly, we started, and that is what we realized, and we'll come to the real time part of this, that we actually, in our help center, we actually built just a FAQ response bot, basically. So it was mainly certain FAQs, and if you ask a question, it will cover the best suited response for that particular FAQ out there. And once we took it live in January, we actually realized that 62% of the inbound queries diverted towards that FAQ bot, and they didn't need to connect to the agent. So that was the first realization that okay, people just don't need to talk to people on call or on IVRs or even on live chats. There is a combination, and hence conversational messaging isn't equal to live chats. It's a combination AI and ML conversation, and hence what's the scope of conversational messaging for us, and how does it actually help us to give the fastest response at the same time for the simplest of the queries, and when it is a bit complicated, we route it to the best agent possible for that particular query. So as I said, that 62% of the people actually didn't go towards the agent for fulfillment of their queries. And then we realized that once they were using this FAQ based response bot, they were actually typing hi and giving certain affirmations and treating the bot like as if it's a person. So we did realize that people also expect some human touch out of that bot, which made us realize that even though we had built certain scope of out of issues and certain treating nomenclature out there for certain scenarios, we realized that we did need to move to conversational messaging, because even though do people need real time conversation out there with the brand out there, but at the same time they want to discuss a lot more, and sometimes simple queries to complicated queries need different treatment. And then we started jotted down that what does it mean for the brand, because what we realized that people find it easy to converse with the problem they are facing, and when the conversation is good, trust gets built. and they expect basically empathetic and contextually aware personalized help, which we realized that when we were following that FAQ based response bot also, they actually treated him like a person out there. And at the same time, they're private about their financial situation at the same time. So, and in fact, then we listed out the use cases that require such real-time conversations when we did understand that people want to talk when they're in distress and need help, when people need to understand the product, when they need to make a decision around the product, and even just talk about their financial situation. So that is in what we realized, that why there is a need for conversational messaging at our end, and how larger can be the scope of work for the brand out there to solve for the users.
And just to add on to your, observations, Apur, do you think technologies like, chatbots, they are doing a good job at this? Because a lot of people have started using AI-driven capabilities and have added them through conversational messaging.
So if you ask me, the how of whole just doesn't lie with technology. And I'll just say that how of it lies with product design and technology. Because when I say that it lies in the how lies in product design and technology, because technology, in technology, you would say natural language understanding, dialogue management, contextually aware, all these modules should be in there. In fact, there are certain open source models which will help you for English and Hindi language, customized to my brand domain and all of that. But there are certain challenges to be solved, like local dialect and conversation, knowledge representation. But over and above it, as I said, that product need to be sorted in terms of designing the relevant conversation flows, and there has to be creative imagination around that process. In fact, when you're defining the entire universe of product concepts, you need to be very thorough with the enablers to enhance the consumer experience that can actually emulate the human conversation in the limited domain, as I said. And to be very honest, over and top of all of it, design plays a role. How do you design the conversation exhaustively over the entire layer of technology while maintaining empathy, witty, and personality of your brand? So the challenge, and it is not just a function of technology, it's a function of product work and design work, which actually helps you to build out relevant conversational messaging for your users out there.
I totally agree with you that design and creativity would be crucial to devise any conversational strategy, that has to be really spot on. At this point of time, I would like to bring in Abhishek. Abhishek, you have heard, the technology leaders here talk about, the various challenges that they face while ensuring a smooth flow while trying to use such technologies, particularly conversational ones. Your thoughts on it? How do you think they can be mitigated or resolved?
So yeah, I think overall conversational messaging, is something which is, just taking off, right? I think the vision that, we have is to be able to fold pretty much the whole web experience inside the chat or messenger applications. So whether it's WhatsApp or Instagram, that's where the users are, the end customers are spending most of their time, right? I mean, and that's where we want them to be able to, avail of any service or, goods which is available on the web, right? Or any information for that matter. And so traditionally, there have been mobile apps, right, that people install on the mobile phones, but it only goes so far. I mean, how many thousands of merchants are listed on like e-commerce sites, right? There are so many players in each domain, whether it's banking and finance industry, education, tech, healthcare. I think it's just not possible to install like hundreds of thousands of apps, right? You can only have maybe 10, 20, 50, at max maybe 100. So the customers spend actually most of their time on these messaging channels, and that's where we want to bring the whole web experience. They should be able to, for example, browse a product on an e-commerce site, or they should be able to order food. They should be able to make a healthcare appointment through any of the businesses which are in that domain, and so on. And so I think more and more we are seeing customers being there and technologies being built to support all such businesses in the chat messages itself. And that is where, I think we want to bring, if a customer is interested in any service or a product, how can we be there, for the entire journey, all the way from pre-purchase to purchase and post-purchase, right? So which is where the marketing and the commerce and the customer support platforms come in. And if we can, have chatbots which are like supporting on behalf of the business these customer requests to be able to, send promotional messages, for example, or be able to track marketing leads, or be able to help them, browse and search and discover various products in the product catalog, or maybe restaurant's menu, right? And being able to then check out, order, make a payment, right from the chat messenger itself without having to leave that. And then similarly, post-purchase, once they have, purchased some service or goods, they would, if they have some issue, they should be able to, just through that, be able to get some customer support as well, right? So now customer support can also be provided through bots, as I think many of the folks here spoke about. And, that is where this whole AI, NLP, that intelligence in the bots needs to be built out. And so I think there is I think recently a lot of work done in this AI NLP space, where I think it's reached a point where the AI and NLP based technologies can be leveraged to understand both text as well as voice. And I think a lot of work has largely happened on English and sort of the Western languages, but I think not as much on the Indian languages. And I think that is where a lot of work needs to happen, in various forms. Firstly, even understanding what they're trying to say, and then being able to, I think, automatically generate some sort of a, answering system, leveraging AI. I think that would be wonderful. In some cases, businesses may want more structured journeys. They may want to navigate their customers in a certain flow. So those are the structured journeys that a bot can have. And, at some point, maybe the bot cannot handle it and it may want to hand it off to a human agent. So that is where the customer support system comes in, and agents can actually, take over from it. There can be AI systems which even assist human agents, right? They can also be back routed to bots once they are through with the complex queries, and then the bots can continue. The bot can also be very specialized, for different verticals. I think we spoke about healthcare. It can be for banking and finance, for retail, for education tech, and so on, right? And so the bot can also hand over from one bot to another, which may be more specialized, right? And then eventually, I think the whole experience, the more seamless it is, the easy it is, it can be scheduled as well. The end customer might just say that I want these things done, at the start of the day, and some bot basically just takes care of connecting and integrating with various systems out there and just taking care of it, right? Acting on their behalf, right? So I think we'll see a lot more of it, in the coming times, but this is definitely something which is happening. And we see, it's a huge opportunity out there in the market as well. And not many people have done work on Indian languages in particular, like I mentioned. So yeah, I think it can be pretty much.
Yes, I understand your drift, Abhishek, that, uh, according to the present state of affairs, it looks really difficult for such tools to, really respond to complex messaging, and which is where I think a lot of cognitive abilities and capabilities would be required. As you already said, it's a work under progress, and we expect and we hope that, what the future brings would be more seamless. And so in this context, just for the for the advantage of our viewers and our audience, would you like to really elucidate on what truly constitutes conversational messaging, and why, new age companies, startups really need such kind of messaging in order to reach out to their customer base?
Yeah, so I think firstly, a lot of the brands which sell on like many platforms like e-commerce, they are like the merchants are far away from their end customers, right? And so they don't really get to, talk to the customers directly and, get their feedback, what is good, what products and services are good versus not, right? I think this provides a great sort of a level playing field for all such businesses and merchants which can onboard, come to these chat applications and their customers are already there, and they can get much more personalized. They can get very targeted. They can collect information about the user's interests, their likes, dislikes, what are the products, for example, they like to browse, or maybe the kind of food they like to order, right? And then being able to provide a much more useful experience for the end customer. And especially in like mobile first countries, people are just everyone is like a lot of the folks are on mobile, unlike the Western world where desktops and email became more popular. So I think on the mobile, definitely there is a lot of opportunity where these regions can leapfrog and provide very close sort of an experience between the customers and the businesses, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So Abhishek, and moving on, I would really want to go to Mayank now. Mayank, according to your opinion, you have heard a lot of technology leaders here talk about it. Abhishek was also talking about it. What, according to your mind, should be the key ingredients in order to build a truly conversational messaging platform?
Depends on what we are looking at, but from the perspective where our business is, obviously, I mean, automatically it offers what we look for is a scale. As your customers keep increasing in large numbers, it becomes fairly difficult for a business to keep deploying back-end staff to cater to either the customer needs pre-sales or post-sales, and that's where these capabilities help us to kind of throttle some of those load to an automated system rather than purely growing the human staff to support the customer. The second is availability. On what kind of customers can today don't really want to sort of have a specific time. They don't really like 9 to 5. Call us between 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. So the questions could come at any time. So availability is very, very critical. Customers can ask questions and get their answers or queries resolved at a time of their convenience. So availability is very, very critical. And also availability from the perspective of, they could be on any device. Today, we see customers hopping between handsets to desktops to tablets to everywhere. And it's got to have that context. The platform needs to have kind of context wherein customers could be anywhere, but you're talking to one business and it knows where you left off, so that we can continue the conversation going forward. So nothing gets lost. So I think those are the 2-3, apart from whatever others spoke about in terms of how can we scale it further using NLP and understanding the language, and some of them offer kind of a experience wherein there are buttons there and you can choose to do something. But those are, I think, further evolution. But from our perspective, where we are, those 2 or 3 things are most critical. And anything beyond that is going to be great. I think going forward, I think we're going to have much better features on these outbound bots.
Anything beyond that would be sci-fi presently. Very interesting observations coming from Mayank, where he spoke about how availability and scalability have to be the 2 key areas that technology leaders would look at as far as trying to build or trying to even consider a truly conversational messaging platform. Now, really want Raj to come up with his inputs on this.
Absolutely. I think we touched a lot of aspects of conversational commerce, conversational messaging. The one part which I also want to emphasize more upon is, I think most of the discussion that we have had till now is initiated by customer, right? Where customer is requesting a conversation, but also initiated by brand, right? How do you? I think that's also an equally important part of conversational messaging, where I think we had some examples from Gaurav Bagga coming in about you telling customers about their appointment time and things like that. And we have seen at MoEngage many of our customers using conversational or initiating conversations based on some machine learning algorithm that they predict that, hey, this customer is likely to purchase some item, or this customer is most likely to, based on basically recommendation or the likelihood of based on the last purchase history, identify a particular product that this customer might want to really buy, and initiate that conversation that, hey, do you want to buy this product? Maybe your friend bought this, or maybe someone you follow bought this. Do you want this? Or things like refills, where somebody had bought socks 3 months back, and every 3 months maybe you need socks, or some medicines, or Ayurvedic and healthcare supplements, where somebody had bought it 1 month back and now it's time to refill. So there's a lot of use cases about brands initiating that conversation and telling the customers that, hey, this is the order, this is the price, just say yes and I'll place your order, right? I think the ease of placing an order, the ease of confirming an appointment, buying a subscription, is also a very important part of conversational messaging, where you can get every information as a customer needed on your conversation by the brand. All you need to say is yes or no, or maybe ask a question about, hey, what's the timeline, what's the size. You'll get an answer back, and then you say, okay, go ahead and make the purchase. I think that's also one part of the future that I'm seeing some very early stages in that sense as well, where brands just want customers to complete transaction in one. So rather than one click, it's like one word, right? So moving from one click commerce to one word commerce. I think that's also another trend that I'm seeing more often.
This is a very interesting point that has been raised by Raj, where he spoke about, while the other points were taken care of by Mayank, he spoke about the need to initiate conversations, which is so very important, particularly from the standpoint of customer acquisition. Now, I see Apoorv nodding his head a lot. He wants to add on to this discussion.
Nothing. I was just listening, and nothing was. I think Raj gave a different tangent to the conversation, that maybe a lot of times, and I think we mentioned that the death of email and other channels out there. Once a user opens your platform, be it website or app, how do you initiate conversation and translate that conversation into certain solutionizing of certain of his query or problem, and hence then translate into a sale for yourself? And I think largely it's almost like I am entering into a showroom to find a complicated product, basically a complicated involvement around how to go about buy the next TV, and the guy in the showroom helping me find out what parameters to find out me the right models. I think a lot of websites and have actually taken very well used of this conversational messaging to crack that online, that basically they have just digitized what happens in a mall or a showroom out there with you on their website. And it subconsciously, it trust gets built over that conversation on its own, and the sale happens. And trust me, as he said, that today if I bought something, and I'll tell you this has happened, I'll just quote one example, that I have an automatic machine for washing our utensils. When I go on the website, it actually triggers me that this must be X number of days, you might need a refill. And I say yes, and I order it. And it is almost that I end up buying the same refill from the same platform, because it manages my entire life cycle management for my machine out there. So how the brands initiate the conversation, and it was not just about selling me that refill, it was reminding me that I might need to refill in the next 10 days or 12 days. So there are umpteen numbers of examples wherein this has taken the place of a big prospective channel for driving your revenue out there, and also retaining the users who are now core part of your revenue.
True. Very interesting points coming from Apoorv, where he actually elaborated on, what was set off by Raj. Gaurav, your views on it?
I think
What would you like to see in a truly dynamic conversational messaging platform?
So I think for Christine, like we are in secondary healthcare, right? We're into elective surgeries, and our core model also works on where a care coordinator is going to talk to the patient, help them understand the challenges of the treatment they may go through, right? Before they even meet a surgeon. We have the whole health tech setup where the appointments are booked online, the consultations can be done online. But there are a lot of steps for a lot of, like any other product as well, right? There are a lot of steps for a journey for a patient to actually, or for us, a patient, if he's looking for a treatment, for us, that is success when he gets that treatment in the right way, right? But because it's not a one-day thing, it is more of a multiple days interaction. And so maybe it's our website, maybe it's our mobile app, or whether it's our communication through through the chatbots and everything. What I think is another key ingredient is giving them that unified experience across all the different products that are going to interact with the patient for us, right? My communications, and like we use, let's say, a pristine care handle for all the communications, like even any documents are shared directly through our upload securely, right, without anybody looking at those documents. And that gives them the trust that there is a digital platform which is by brand pristine care, and they're able to interact through it to the care coordinators as well. There are no like personal numbers of patients being shared across with the care coordinators. So I think being able to provide that unified experience across all the different products, I see is a very key ingredient for a truly great messaging platform.
Wonderful, Gaurav. So I have on my plate a lot of ingredients. Let's see what is the recipe which comes out of it. I have noted some points: availability, scalability, the ability to initiate discussions and contacts, a unified experience coming from Gaurav. So Abhishek, I think you have a gold mine of suggestions, perspectives. So I would really want to understand from you now. You know, you have heard the technology leaders bring up their points, and which are all very pertinent ones. How can all these be really incorporated? How are you doing this? I mean, personally speaking, and what are the possibilities that exist to accommodate all of these various, you know, ingredients, so as to say, or wishes?
No, definitely. I think the conversational messaging, is going to be a vast space, and we're just getting started. I think there is a, opportunity for every business, for every end user to be able to leverage, the AI and data technologies to be able to, have their own bots. Everyone, potentially in future may have their own virtual assistant, whether it's an individual or a business, right, or an entity. And they should be able to talk to each other and understand what they're representing on behalf of the user or the business, right? And so that knowledge will get more and more ingrained. And there are, already, I think, a lot of tools which are getting built out to help with it. So for example, you can feed all the content that we have on the portal for a business into that system, and it will automatically spit out, all sorts of possible questions and answers, right? So I think we are at a cusp of, a major revolution where things are going to get much easier, hopefully, and, much more personalized, much more, on demand, at the convenience of the customer or the business, a lot more automated, and humans will, of course, people who were manning all these call centers manually, they will move on to higher order things, right? They will move on to solving more complex real life problems. So yeah, very exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the most exciting age in which technology will play a very crucial and a very critical role. I absolutely agree with you. Couldn't agree more, Abhishek. And you gave a great bird's eye view perspective to this entire thing. Just repeating my query to you again, how are you, going about addressing these issues or these demands that are coming from the technology leaders? How are you incorporating them into your platform?
Yeah, I think there is definitely a lot of demand, like coming from different domains, pretty much all the verticals that I was referring to earlier. And I think ultimately it's going to be about quality, right? How can you provide a pretty good response to the customer queries or the questions, and being able to navigate them, help them find what they're looking for, right? So I think if we imagine a world full of literally millions of bots running either on behalf of businesses or even like in future end users or customers, I think at that point, definitely how we can, scale up the whole systems to that, right? On the fly AI NLP, right? How can we have good precision and recall? How can we have good ranking systems? When a question, let's say, comes from a customer, it will go and quickly search into some sort of a database of answers and rank and being able to serve that whichever is the most relevant. And in fact, a lot of other challenges like integrations across various systems, right? So we are talking about banking, finance, retail, education, tech. There would be CRM systems, HR systems, right? So all of these will need to be integrated as well with the bot system, right? And the agent system. The human agents will also need to be assisted. They will need to be quickly provided, summarized maybe view of what the customer interests are or what the customer is looking for in that instance. Their supervisors of these human agents may need summarized view of whatever the chat transcripts were, right? In a country like India, I think many people, are not even literate, right? And so voice channel will also going to be playing a crucial role there. And even for convenience, somebody may not choose to write down, but just speak, right? And so I think all this has to be done for Indian languages. I think nobody out there is going to do it. I think we have to make in India and kind of make it for the world.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the most promising of areas, and there is as you rightly pointed out, there is a lot of work yet to be done, and we really wish and hope that the future really brings up a lot of tools which can be used by enterprises which have all these various ingredients, like availability, scalability, the potential to start conversations and all of that, and of course providing a unified, seamless, flawless experience across geographies, across devices. Very well said, Abhishek. Now for the last words, I would really want to go back to Nishrit. Nishrit, you're there?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nishrit. So you have heard everyone talk about various facets. What do you want to add to this discussion?
I think a lot of interesting points were raised. There are two parts I'm going to go to. I think one, even some of the questions I saw that people were asking, right? It's that even though chatbots have come a long way, are they able to give the right responses? I think a lot of times there's a lot of frustration where people ask them questions and they get wrong responses. And with NLP, they're learning. There's a lot of they're improving over time. But I think that still remains a big problem. Is where you're not getting the right responses, not getting the right context, and customers get frustrated. Or when it's a highly escalated customer, are they really able to, assuage their issues or fix their issues? Probably not. It has to go to a regular person. If a customer screaming at you and the chatbot is giving no emotion, customer is going to get more annoyed. So I think those are areas which still a lot of work needs to be done. And it'll be interesting to see how we progress with that, bring that emotion into these automated messaging systems. The second, I think, which we didn't touch on, where also a lot of help is happening, is even when customers, so what we actually use, we work in home interiors. So customers we talk to, large ticket sizes, you also want to give a standardized experience to a customer where, with humans talking, one person says something, the other person says something else. How do you standardize that? So a lot of these conversational tools are actually working to assist humans, right? Where it gives them context. Hey, say this to the customer, pitch this right now. Or the customer might not be happy, say these things. So we've started using these tools as well. So it's not just direct communication to the end consumer, but also assisting humans to talk to the end consumer, which is picking up a lot as well.
Right. Excellent points coming from you, Nishrit, and you really rounded it off very, very well. Now, before we end this panel discussion, which has been a brilliant one, I would like to inform all the participants here that we are going to make this even more exciting going forward. And how do we do that? We have a few poll questions which are coming up shortly. I would request all of you to keep your fingers ready. May I please have the first poll question? So the first poll question is, do you currently use a messaging platform to engage with your customers? The options are quite limited, yes and no. The next question is, do you think instant messaging apps could drastically improve customer experience and support? In fact, this is one thing which we have discussed in detail during our panel discussion, and it would be interesting to know what people think about this, whether this new technology really has the potential to dramatically transform customer experience and support, although we do see a lot of it happening. However, as many of the panelists pointed out, there is still a long way to go before there can be before we can really claim that it's totally flawless and seamless. I hope all of you are responding to this question. The options are yes and no. And now we go on to the third question. Would you like to talk to a representative here in case you are interested in experimenting with this technology? Please do give in your responses to us, and we would try to get back to you. We would try to get back to you as far as our organization is concerned. We would also help you reach out to the representatives here in case there are queries, doubts, or things that you would like to discuss. Friends, it's been a lovely discussion, very interesting, very informative and very insightful. I need to thank all of you for your brilliant inputs and for making the conversation so lively. After all, the discussion was on conversational technology. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. I would request you to stay on as we head into the question and answer session, and as we have already promised the participants here that we would try to accommodate as many of them as possible. And I already see a lot of them on my screen, which again goes on to show the potential that this area particularly holds, this very promising area. And now I would go to the questions one by one. Let's see what is the first question. Is by Rajesh Netaji. He says, as a customer, I don't like to wait for a long time to connect on call or answering appropriate questions or inappropriate questions of bots. How can we overcome this issue? Who would want to take this?
No, should I?
Yeah, surely.
So, no, so I agree to the fact that as a customer, you don't want to wait for a long time. In fact, when we did talk to the people, that if I were to ask them to rank, what do they want in terms of what do they appreciate as an attribute of good customer experience, the fast response time ranks above consistency or clarity or the availability of multiple contact points or chats or channels out there. So and having said that, so as Rajesh ji agree, customer doesn't want to wait for a long time, but if the brand were to solve for it at scale and also maintain sure that it's a personalized two-way communication in the fastest time possible and almost real time, because it's not just about you raising a question and also having a conversation and a dialogue to it to close it with more contextually aware responses around it. It's important that the companies do invest in AI powered chatbots, which, as I said, that in the course of the conversation does hand over your query to a live agent out there. But the solution actually is that for the brand while scaling and to solve it for the customers in real time, at a low cost. And it's not just about the cost. The cost actually boils down because of the technology around it and solving for it at a scale. This is the only answer to it. But it's just that, as you said, that you may find it inappropriate to talk to a bot. So how do we add life to that bot? Again, remains a problem statement to be solved while solving for in conversational messaging. And as I say that at people and I've actually took a demo for things at Cupshop or other similar players. They are actually trying to add that human approach to that bot so that it doesn't feel alienated for you at the same time.
I hope Apurv has comprehensively responded to the question from Mr. Rajesh. And now going on to the next question is from Bhaskar Mulpuri. Actually, Bhaskar has added a new dimension to this conversation. Earlier on during the discussion, we did speak about how important it is for new age companies, startups, to really up their conversation game, particularly with customers. He has a different perspective and a question which is open to anyone to take. The question is, for a startup, is there a danger of alienating its audience by going with conversational messaging right from day one? Who would like to take this question?
I'll try and pitch in. Let's see if I can do justice to it. It's a very it's you're in a tough spot. Do you want to really do this investment on day one? But if you decide to do so, you are building a platform and a system for the future. I mean, you don't really have. I'm saying when somebody says day one, I'm assuming the MVP is not proven. The product market fit is not proven. The customers are not sort of hooked onto your platform yet. But if you decide to do so, I wouldn't, not on day one for sure. But if you decide to do so, it depends on how smart the bot is, how intelligent and how contextual it is. But if you do it right, you're in fact going to help customers get hooked on to more rather than less. But if it's not implemented right, you do run a risk of alienating your customers, because it's going to sound like a machine talking to you, which is not responding to what you really want to know. So there you go. I mean, it's not an easy question to answer, but it's not an easy choice for a founder. It's not an easy choice to pick which one to pick.
So now we have
one thing I'd like to add here is, I think, as you said correctly, also when you're a new company, I think the benefits that how a lot of newer companies grow is that sort of personalization they give their initial customers, and you don't really know what your customers want yet, right? You're in MVP stage, etc. So if you don't have that journey mapped out, it's so much harder for you to automate pieces. So I would also strongly, day one, I would not go to a bot. I'd want to talk to my customers first and understand what they want. And once I've learned a bit, is when you can actually go and start making those flows.
Yeah, so I would like to add to that a little bit. So I think one is, just looking at the data that we have, I think depending upon the stage of the startup as well, because at Gupshup, for example, all the sort of the most of the unicorns or the soonicorns, are actually our customers. So what I see is that I think on one hand, the investment that the startup needs on let's say having a team of human agents, right? On the other hand, you have the option of automation through bots, right? Now, the quality of the bot is, I think, very important. Like, I think everyone spoke about it. So I think AI-based bots and intelligent bots and bots which can be more human, which have like politeness, empathy, humor, understanding, maybe sarcasm, bias detection, right? All of those attributes, and especially for Indian languages, definitely it's work in progress, right? Like I was referring to, but I think it's not end of the world, because you can still, as a business, choose to have a more structured bot journey. You can say, okay, here's the sort of the first set of questions, maybe around the product catalog, or maybe, if you're operating as a restaurant, here's the menu, right? And you can make it like very easy to use through cards, carousels, this multimedia type objects as part of the chat application, so that they just it's very easy for them to kind of respond to that as well. So these structured journeys are kind of the mainstay currently, I would say. AI and all, is a lot of it is going to come very soon. I think a lot of exciting work is, about to happen on that front. I think the critical mass in terms of the open source, the tools, I think many people spoke about, is already, out there. I think we have to just kind of go ahead, leverage it, and I think it'll be a great opportunity. Another thing I see, like kind of related a little bit, where a lot of the call centers that are there, even for companies operating from Western world, like in the US or maybe in Europe, they still have their call centers from through humans in the developing world, maybe from India, maybe from Africa, could be Philippines, right? And so I think if we are able to crack it, for companies, in India, if we are able to crack that problem of automation of the call center, through these parts, then I think we have like an even larger opportunity to kind of go back to all the businesses operating from the Western world.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen, for this extremely brilliant conversation that we have had today. There are several more questions. However, we have already reached our, we have overshot the time that was allocated to us. However, as Abhishek pointed out, I'm still trying to visualize, an AI tool or a chatbot which has the human attributes of satire and sarcasm and empathy. That would be a very, very interesting version of the future. I really hope that we get to that point very soon. Friends, it has been a lovely, lovely and a very informative and a very insightful discussion. However, as I alluded to before, in the interest of time, we will need to wrap this up. Although I do understand that there could be a lot of areas, a lot of domains, particularly in this area, which can be delved deeper into, and which is one aspect which makes this so very potential and so very exciting. Have a great day ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us today.